Zelvith had been a medical officer for 32 years. She had treated broken bones on mining ships. She had cured rare diseases on colony worlds. She had once saved an entire crew from a radiation leak by working for 16 hours without rest. Nothing surprised her anymore until tonight. She ran through the corridors of the Starboard Unity with her medical kit bouncing against her side. Her 4 legs moved fast, clicking against the metal floor. Her antennae picked up the chemical signals in the air, and what she smelled made no sense at all. The dining hall doors slid open and she rushed inside. She expected to find a human collapsed on the floor, shaking and foaming at the mouth. She expected to see Kira Vance performing emergency aid while others called for help. She expected the worst. Instead, she found Danny Cole sitting calmly at the table, licking golden oil off his fingers. Zelva stopped so suddenly that she almost fell over. Her medical kit dropped from her hands and crashed to the floor. Her mandibles clicked together in complete confusion. "You," she said, pointing at Danny with 2 of her arms. "You ate the night bloom oil?" Danny nodded slowly, like a child caught stealing sweets. "Yes, how much?" He looked at the empty bowl, then at Kira, then back at Zelvith. "All of it?" Zelvith made a sound that her species used when words were not enough. It was somewhere between a scream and a whistle. She pulled out her scanner and rushed to Danny's side, pressing it against his neck, his chest, his head. "This is impossible," she muttered. "Absolutely impossible." The scanner showed the truth clearly. Night bloom compounds were flowing through Danny's blood. His liver was processing them. His kidneys were filtering them. His body was treating the deadly poison like it was nothing more than a heavy meal. "Am I dying?" Danny asked, looking genuinely worried for the first time. "You should be dead already," Zelvith shouted. "The amount of toxin in your system could kill 12 adult Tirani. Your heart should have stopped 10 minutes ago. Your brain should be shutting down. But instead, your body is just breaking it down, like it's food." The doors opened again, and Commander Vrax entered, his golden eyes scanning the room. The chaos had calmed slightly, but fear still hung in the air. Several aliens had moved to the far side of the room, keeping their distance from Danny as if he might explode at any moment. "Report," Vrax demanded. Zelvith turned to face him, her antennae flat against her head in distress. "Commander, the human consumed a lethal dose of nightbloom extract. By all known science, he should be dead. But he is not. I cannot explain it." Vrax looked at Danny. Danny tried to smile, but it came out wrong. "Hi," Danny said weakly. "Human," Vrax said, his voice very controlled. "Do you understand what you have done? Nightbloom oil is sacred to my people, not because it is rare, but because it is dangerous. We use it in small ceremonies where a single drop is shared among hundreds. You have consumed enough to poison a small village." "I didn't know," Danny said honestly. "It tasted like my grandmother's cooking. I thought it was just fancy sauce." Vrax stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned to Zelvith. "Is he truly unharmed? His vital signs are stable. His body is processing the toxin without assistance. I have never seen anything like this in my entire career." She paused, her antennae twitching. "We should still observe him. Perhaps the effects are delayed. Perhaps he will collapse soon." "I really feel fine," Danny insisted. "Actually, I feel pretty good. Kind of warm and relaxed. Like after a really nice meal." Pella had crept back into the room and was watching from behind a pillar. Her yellow eyes were still wide with fear, but now there was something else in them too. Curiosity. "How?" she asked, her voice small. "How is this possible?" Kira Vance stepped forward, placing herself between Danny and the worried crowd. She had seen situations like this before, where fear could turn to anger very quickly. She needed to calm everyone down before something bad happened. "Danny is fine because humans are different," she said clearly. "We evolved on a world full of things trying to kill us. Our bodies learned to handle toxins that would destroy other species. This isn't magic. It's biology. What kind of world produces creatures like this?" A Velian diplomat asked, backing away further. "Earth," Kira said simply. "A world where the plants fight back." Zelveth was still scanning Danny, unable to believe what her equipment was telling her. She had studied human biology before they joined the Alliance, but the reports had not prepared her for this. The textbooks had called humans resilient. They had mentioned that humans could survive injuries that would kill other species. But no one had said anything about poison immunity. "I need to run more tests," Zelveth announced. "Full blood work, tissue samples, neural scans. This human is either the luckiest being in the galaxy, or something very strange is happening inside him." "I'd prefer lucky," Danny said. Commander Vrax raised one of his hands for silence. The room went quiet immediately. "We will take the human to Medical Bay," he decided. "Zelveth will monitor him through the night. If he survives until morning with no ill effects, we will discuss what this means for our alliance." He looked at Danny with an expression that might have been respect or might have been fear. "And we will review all future menus before serving them to humans." Two Tyranni guards stepped forward to escort Danny. He stood up slowly, brushing crumbs off his shirt. "Can I at least finish my drink?" he asked. Everyone in the room shouted, "No." At the same time, Danny sighed and let himself be led away. As he passed Kira, she gave him a small nod. "You're going to be fine," she said quietly. "I know," he replied. "I just wish I'd gotten seconds." Kira watched him go, then turned to face the frightened crowd. She had a lot of explaining to do, and somewhere in the back of her mind, she wondered what other surprises humans might have for their new alien friends. This was going to be a very long night. The medical bay was cold and bright. Danny sat on an examination table while machines beeped around him. Tubes connected to his arm drew blood into small containers. Sensors stuck to his skin measured things he did not understand. He had been here for 3 hours, and he was getting bored. Zelveth moved between screens, reading data that made her antennae twitch with confusion. Every few minutes, she would make that strange whistle-scream sound and start a new scan. Commander Vrax stood in the corner, watching everything with his arms crossed. Pella had followed them to Medical Bay and refused to leave. She sat on a small chair near the door, her tail wrapped tightly around her legs. She had not stopped staring at Danny since he arrived. "Your cells are remarkable," Zelveth finally said, turning to face Danny. "They are actively fighting the toxin, breaking it apart, using some pieces for energy and removing the rest through your waste systems. It is like watching a tiny war inside your body, and your body is winning easily." Danny shrugged. "Is that not normal?" "No." Zelveth threw her hands up. "It is absolutely not normal. Most species have no defense against Nightbloom compounds. If a Tyranni consumed what you did, they would be dead in minutes. If a Sindari did, they would be paralyzed for life. But you asked for seconds." To be fair, it was really good. Kira entered the medical bay with a cup of coffee in her hand. Real Earth coffee from the small supply humans had brought aboard. She handed it to Danny, who took it gratefully. Zelveth pointed at the cup. "What is that?" "Coffee," Danny said, taking a sip. "Humans drink it every morning, sometimes all day. I have read about coffee." Zelveth's voice became very serious. "It contains caffeine, a chemical that increases heart rate and blood pressure. In most species, it would cause cardiac failure." Danny looked at his cup, then at Zelveth. "Really? Really?" The amount of caffeine in that one cup could kill 3 Velians. Zelveth grabbed a scanner and pointed it at the coffee. And you drink this every day? Multiple times? I mean, yeah. Doesn't everyone? Kira laughed and leaned against the wall. Welcome to humanity, Doctor. We're basically poison processing machines wrapped in meat. Pella finally spoke up, her voice quiet but curious. How did humans become this way? Your planet must be very strange. Danny thought about how to explain. He had never really considered how weird Earth was until he met aliens who found everything about it terrifying. Wow, he started. Earth has lots of plants and animals that don't want to be eaten. So over millions of years, they developed ways to protect themselves. Poisons, toxins, things that make other creatures sick. But humans kept eating them anyway. And over time, our bodies learned to handle it. You ate poison until you became immune? Pella asked, her eyes even wider than before. Pretty much. There's this spice called capsaicin. It's the stuff that makes peppers hot. Plants make it specifically to stop mammals from eating them. The chemical creates a burning pain response. Most animals feel that burn and stay away. Danny smiled. Humans felt the burn and said, "Hey, this would be great on tacos." Vrax stepped forward, interested despite himself. You consume a defense chemical designed to cause pain. For flavor? Oh yeah. The hotter the better. We have competitions to see who can eat the most painful peppers. People cry and sweat and sometimes need medical help. And they love it. Zelveth looked like she wanted to run more tests immediately. What other toxins do humans consume willingly? Danny counted on his fingers. Alcohol is a big one. It's basically poison that we ferment from fruit and grain. It damages our organs and makes us act stupid, but we drink it at parties anyway. Chocolate has theobromine, which is toxic to lots of earth mammals. We eat it for fun. Nicotine from tobacco is incredibly addictive and dangerous, but millions of humans still use it. Oh, and some people eat a fish called fugu that can kill you if it's prepared wrong, just because it tastes interesting. The room was silent. Even Vrax seemed unsettled. Your species consumes known toxins for entertainment, he said slowly. Not for survival. Not for medicine. For fun and comfort, Kira added. Nothing makes a bad day better like a cup of coffee and a piece of chocolate. Pella raised her hand like a student in school. What about your planet itself? If the plants are trying to poison you, what else is dangerous? Danny laughed. Pretty much everything. The air is full of allergens. The water has microorganisms that can make us sick. We have areas that freeze cold enough to kill in minutes and areas hot enough to cook us alive. There are storms that destroy cities and earthquakes that split the ground open. Half the animals can kill us if we're not careful, and the other half can give us diseases. This is your home world, Rax said flatly. The place you evolved. The place your species calls home. Yep, Earth. Sweet Earth. Danny took another sip of coffee. I miss it sometimes. Zelva sat down heavily on a medical stool. Her antennae drooped in exhaustion or maybe defeat. I am beginning to understand why humans are so difficult to kill. You were designed by your world to survive anything. Not designed, Kira corrected. Tested. Every generation, Earth threw something new at us. The ones who survived passed their strength to the next generation. That's evolution. That's why Danny can eat your sacred poison and ask for dessert. Danny finished his coffee and looked at the empty cup. Speaking of dessert, is there anything else to eat? I'm getting hungry again. Zelveth made her whistle scream sound once more. How can you think about food at a time like this? I'm human, Danny said with a grin. Eating things we probably shouldn't is kind of our specialty. Vrax shook his head slowly. For the first time since Danny had met him, the commander looked genuinely amazed. Not scared, Not angry, but truly impressed. I am beginning to think, Rack said carefully, that the Alliance has not fully understood what it means to have humans as partners. Kira smiled. Trust me, Commander. You're only seeing the beginning. Danny's stomach growled loudly in the quiet medical bay. Everyone looked at him. So, about that food? He asked, hopefully this time. Even Vrax laughed. The shuttle broke through the clouds, and Danny saw the colony for the first time. Buildings made of white stone spread across a valley between green mountains. Rivers wound through the streets like silver ribbons. It would have been beautiful if not for the bodies. They were everywhere. Lying on streets, slumped in doorways, collapsed in parks and gardens. 32,000 Sindari, frozen in whatever position they had been in when the toxin hit them. Some had been running. Some had been reaching for loved ones. Some had been holding children. Landing in 30 seconds, the pilot announced through the comm. Danny stood at the shuttle door with Kira beside him. 2 Tarani soldiers in heavy protective suits waited behind them, carrying crates of antidote. Everyone's eyes were on Danny. Remember, Zelva's voice came through his earpiece. Breathe slowly at first. Let your body adjust. If you feel any numbness or weakness, return to the shuttle immediately. Got it, Danny said. His heart was beating fast. The shuttle landed with a soft thump. The doors opened. Green-tinged air rushed in, carrying a sweet smell that Danny recognized from the dinner. Night bloom. Stronger than before. Thick enough to taste. Danny stepped out onto the colony ground and took a breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his skin began to tingle. His eyes watered slightly. His throat felt warm, like he had swallowed hot tea. But he could move. He could think. He could breathe. I'm okay, he reported. Mild irritation. Nothing serious. He heard Zelvath make a sound of amazement through the comm. Your body is already adapting. Heart rate elevated but stable. Neural function normal. You are actually becoming more resistant as you breathe. Kira stepped out beside him, her face showing nothing but determination. She took a breath and coughed once, but stayed standing. Same here, she said. Uncomfortable but manageable. The Tarani soldiers looked at each other through their helmet visors. Even through the thick glass, Danny could see their disbelief. Let's move, Danny said. We don't have much time. They split into 2 teams. Danny and 1 Tarani went east. Kira and the other went west. The plan was simple. Reach as many paralyzed colonists as possible and inject them with antidote. Zelvath had programmed injection devices that could deliver the medicine in seconds. Danny moved through the streets, stopping at every body he found. A merchant frozen beside his cart. A teacher collapsed with students around her. A young couple holding hands, their eyes still open but unable to move. I'm sorry, Danny whispered each time before pressing the injector to their necks. You're going to be okay. The antidote worked fast. Within minutes, the paralyzed Sindari began to move again. First their eyes, then their fingers, then their whole bodies. They gasped and cried and looked around in confusion. Go to the central plaza, Danny told each one. Help others if you can. Some were too weak to walk. Danny carried them. His muscles burned and his lungs ached from the toxic air, but he kept moving. He had to keep moving. 3 hours into the rescue, he found a small house on the edge of town. The door was open. Inside, a young Sindari girl lay on the floor, her small body curled around a stuffed animal. She could not have been more than 6 years old by human counting. Danny knelt beside her and checked her pulse. Still alive, but barely. The toxin had hit children harder because of their smaller bodies. She had been alone for more than a day, unable to move, unable to call for help. Hey there, Danny said softly, pressing the injector to her neck. You're safe now. I've got you. The medicine worked slowly at first, Her fingers twitched. Her eyes blinked. Then, suddenly, she took a deep, gasping breath and started crying. Danny picked her up and held her against his chest. She was so small, so fragile. Her tears soaked through his shirt. "It's okay," he said, his own voice breaking. "I've got you. You're going to be okay." He carried her out of the house and toward the plaza, where rescued colonists were gathering. One of them, an older Sindari woman, screamed when she saw the girl. "Myra, my granddaughter." Danny handed the child to her grandmother and watched them hold each other. For a moment, despite everything, he smiled. By the time the sun began to set, they had saved over 20,000 colonists. More help arrived from other Alliance ships. Medical teams in better protective gear took over, following the path the humans had cleared. Danny sat on the steps of a temple, exhausted beyond words. His body ached. His skin was red from the toxin exposure. But he was alive. And so were thousands of people who should not have been. Kira sat down beside him, equally tired, equally proud. "Not bad for a dinner roll guy," she said. Danny laughed weakly. "I'm never going to live that down, am I?" "Never." Commander Vrax's voice came through the comm. "All teams, prepare for extraction. The mission is complete. You have done something extraordinary today." Danny looked out at the colony. People were moving again, helping each other, crying with relief and joy. Families reunited. Friends embraced. Life returned to a place that had been silent with death. 1 week later, Danny stood in the dining hall of the Starward Unity, the same room where everything had started. But this time, there was no fear when aliens looked at him. Only gratitude. Commander Vrax raised a glass. "To our human allies, who walked through poison to save those in need, who showed us that strength comes in forms we never expected." Everyone cheered. Torani, Sindari, Velian, and others. All of them raising glasses to the two humans who had done the impossible. Pella approached Danny after the toast. Her yellow eyes were filled with tears. "My sister was on that colony," she said. "She has 3 children. Because of you, they are all alive." Danny didn't know what to say. He just nodded. Pella hugged him suddenly, wrapping her arms around him with surprising strength. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." Later, after the celebration had quieted down, Danny sat at a table with a plate of food in front of him. Something purple and covered in golden sauce. Zelvis walked by and stopped cold. "Is that?" "Velshi roots," Danny confirmed. "They saved some for me." The doctor stared at him. Then she shook her head and kept walking, muttering something about impossible humans. Danny took a bite and smiled. Still delicious. Katie Moore wiped the sweat from her forehead and stepped back from the training circle. Her muscles burned from 2 hours of combat drills, but she kept her breathing steady. Around her, alien students moved through their own exercises with grace that made her efforts look clumsy. A group of Vexury students watched her from across the training hall. They had 4 arms each, purple skin, and expressions that showed exactly what they thought of humans. One of them laughed and said something in their native tongue. Katie didn't need a translator to understand. She had heard it all before. 5 years ago, humans had earned their place at the Galactic Unity Academy. They had passed every test, met every requirement, and proven they could handle the training. But earning a place and earning respect were 2 very different things. Katie gathered her gear and headed for the exit. She was 19 years old, average height. With brown hair, she kept tied back and eyes that noticed everything. Most aliens looked at her and saw weakness. They saw soft skin without scales, no claws, no natural weapons. They saw a species from a small planet on the edge of known space. They didn't see what was underneath. Danny Cole was waiting for her outside the training hall. He was 20, tall and lean, with an easy smile that hid sharp intelligence. He fell into step beside her as they walked toward the dining area. "Rough session?" he asked. "The usual," Katie said. "Instructor Velik paired me with Zyrith Cole again." Danny winced. Zyrith was the top combat student in their year, a Vexary who stood 7 feet tall and had been training to fight since he could walk. Being paired with him meant being thrown around for 2 hours while he barely broke a sweat. "He's trying to make you quit," Danny said. "I know. Is it working?" Katie looked at him. "What do you think?" They found a table in the corner of the dining hall, away from the crowds of alien students. The academy held over 3,000 young beings from dozens of species. Humans numbered less than 50. They tended to stick together. "Did you hear about the assembly tomorrow?" Danny asked between bites of food. Katie nodded. Announcements had been going around all week. Something big was coming, though nobody knew exactly what. "Rumors say it's the honor trial," Danny said, lowering his voice. "The real one." Katie stopped eating. The honor trial was legendary at the academy. Once every few years, the instructors would bring out a captured predator from one of the galaxy's most dangerous worlds. Students could volunteer to face it in single combat. Victory meant instant promotion to elite warrior status, the highest honor a student could achieve, but no one had ever won. In the academy's history, 11 students had challenged the creature. All 11 had died. "They haven't held one in 6 years," Katie said. Apparently, they found a new Varax. The name sent a chill through the dining hall. Several alien students at nearby tables went quiet. The Varax was a nightmare that parents used to scare their children. It came from a death world even more hostile than most, a planet where everything evolved to kill everything else. The Varax had risen to the top of that food chain. 8 legs, armored hide, venomous fangs, and intelligence enough to learn and adapt during a fight. It was the perfect predator. "They're actually going to let students fight that thing?" Danny asked. "It's voluntary," Katie said. "Always has been. Voluntary suicide is still suicide." Katie didn't respond. She was thinking about something else, something she couldn't quite name. A feeling that had been growing in her chest ever since she arrived at this academy and watched aliens dismiss her species as soft and weak. She thought about her home, the frontier colony where she grew up. She thought about the things she had survived that these pampered academy students couldn't imagine. The next morning, the entire student body gathered in the main arena. It was a massive circular space with seating for thousands, built to host combat demonstrations and tournaments. Today, a large covered cage sat in the center of the sand floor. Something inside it was moving. Something big. Instructor Velik stood before the assembly. He was a Rothian, 8 feet tall with gray scales and yellow eyes that showed no warmth. He had been running combat training for 30 years and had never once said anything kind about humans. "Today we honor an ancient tradition," Velik announced, his voice carrying across the arena. "The ultimate test of a warrior's spirit. The honor trial." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Katie sat near the back with Danny and a handful of other human students. She watched the covered cage with focused attention. "Inside this cage is a Varax," Velik continued. "Captured from the death world Karth 6. It has killed 7 handlers during transport. It has never been defeated in combat." He let those words sink in before continuing. "Tomorrow the cage will open. Any student who wishes may volunteer to face it. The rules are simple. No weapons. No assistance. You fight until one of you can no longer continue. Victory means the creature submits or dies. Defeat means you die." The arena was completely silent. Even the most arrogant students looked nervous. Katie could see Zyrith Cole sitting with his Vexary friends, his 4 arms crossed over his chest. His expression was confident, but his eyes kept drifting to the cage. The reward for victory is immediate elevation to elite warrior status, Valek said. Full command privileges. A place in history as the first being to defeat a Varax in single combat. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Of course, in 200 years, no one has claimed that reward. 11 have tried. 11 have died. Perhaps this generation will be different. Perhaps not. As if on cue, the creature inside the cage slammed against its bars. The entire arena shook. Students gasped and pulled back in their seats. The cage held, but barely. Through the gaps in the cover, Katie caught a glimpse of something dark and massive, covered in chitinous armor. She didn't look away. Danny grabbed her arm. Whatever you're thinking, stop thinking it. Katie didn't answer. She was studying the cage, the way it rocked when the creature moved, the pattern of sounds from inside. She was learning. Instructor Valek spread his arms wide. The cage opens tomorrow at midday. Sleep well tonight, students. And ask yourselves a question. His yellow eyes swept across the crowd, lingering for just a moment on the small group of humans in the back. Who among you has the honor to face death? The assembly ended. Students filed out in nervous clusters, talking in hushed voices about the trial. Katie remained seated, staring at the cage as workers began to wheel it toward a secure holding area. Danny waited with her, worry clear on his face. Katie, talk to me. She finally looked at him. Her expression was calm, but something burned behind her eyes. Something old and patient and very, very dangerous. I'm going to volunteer, she said. Danny opened his mouth to argue, to beg, to convince her she was insane. But something in her voice stopped him. He had known Katie for 2 years. He had never heard her sound like this before, like a predator who had finally found worthy prey. The medical bay was quiet except for the soft hum of healing machines. Katie lay on a bed while an automated system repaired the deep cut on her arm. The process was painless but slow, giving her time to think about everything that had happened. 3 hours had passed since her victory. In that time, news had spread across the entire academy. A human had defeated a Varax in single combat. The words sounded impossible even now, but thousands had witnessed it. There was no denying what had happened. The door opened, and Danny walked in. He looked like he had not stopped smiling since the fight ended. How's the arm? He asked. It'll be fine, Katie said. The doctors say I was lucky. A few inches deeper, and I would have lost use of it. Danny pulled a chair next to her bed and sat down. Lucky, right. That's definitely the word I would use to describe what happened out there. Katie almost laughed. It wasn't luck. It was preparation. I know. I watched you do it. I still don't fully believe it, but I watched you do it. He shook his head slowly. Do you know what's happening out there? The whole academy is talking about you. Not just students. Instructors, administrators, everyone. They're calling it the greatest upset in academy history. Katie closed her eyes. She had not done it for fame or recognition. She had done it because she was tired of being dismissed, tired of watching her people treated as weak and worthless. Someone had to show them the truth. There's something else, Danny said. Counselor Mirith wants to see you. She's waiting outside. Katie opened her eyes. Counselor Mirith was one of the oldest beings in the academy, a Tholian who had served in positions of power for longer than most species had existed. For her to personally visit a student was almost unheard of. Send her in, Katie said. Danny nodded and left. A moment later, the door opened again, and Counselor Mirith entered. She moved slowly, her silver body showing the weight of centuries, but her eyes were sharp and alive. Katie Moore, she said. May I sit? Katie nodded, and the counselor lowered herself into the chair Danny had left. I have been at this academy for a very long time, Mira said. I have watched countless students come and go. I have seen warriors of every species, some of the finest fighters the galaxy has ever produced. None of them accomplished what you did today. Katie did not know what to say, so she stayed silent. Do you know why most beings fail against creatures like the Varax? Mirith continued. They fight with their instincts. They see a predator and respond as prey, with fear and aggression and panic. Even the strongest warriors fall into this pattern. They cannot help it. She leaned forward, her ancient eyes studying Katie with intense interest. But you did not fight like prey. You fought like a predator. A patient, intelligent, adaptive predator who refused to be intimidated by something bigger and stronger. She paused. Where did you learn to think like that? Katie thought about her childhood on the frontier colony. The long winters when food was scarce. The predators that stalked the edges of the settlement. The constant struggle to survive on a world that offered no mercy. I didn't learn it, she said. I grew up with it. Every human does. We come from a planet that killed 90% of everything that ever lived on it. The ones who survived learned to think differently. Mirith nodded slowly. I have read the classified files about Earth. Your world is listed as a Category 7 death world. Do you know what that means? Katie shook her head. It means that by all reasonable standards, intelligent life should not have evolved there. The conditions are too harsh, the competition too fierce. And yet humans not only evolved, you thrived. You became the dominant species on a planet that tried to destroy you every single day. The counselor stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. The galaxy has underestimated your species since the day we discovered you. We looked at your soft bodies and your lack of natural weapons and assumed you were weak. We did not understand that your greatest weapons are not physical. She turned back to Katie. Your weapons are patience, adaptability, the ability to learn and think and plan, the refusal to accept defeat, even when facing impossible odds. She smiled, a rare expression on her ancient face. You are not apex predators because of what you are. You are apex predators because of how you think. Katie sat with those words for a moment. She had never thought of herself as an apex predator. On the frontier, she had just been trying to survive. But maybe that was the point. Survival itself was what made humans different. The door opened again, and Instructor Violet entered. He looked uncomfortable, which was strange on someone so confident. Miss Moore, he said formally, I came to congratulate you officially. As of today, you hold the rank of Elite Warrior. The first human to ever achieve this status. Katie nodded. Thank you. Violet hesitated, then spoke again. I also came to apologize. I have treated humans poorly since you arrived at this academy. I assumed you were weak because you looked weak. I was wrong. It was not easy for him to say. Katie could see that. She appreciated it anyway. You weren't entirely wrong, she said. By most physical standards, we are weaker than many species. But strength isn't everything. Violet looked at her with something close to curiosity. May I ask what you plan to do now? With your new rank, you have many options open to you. Katie thought about it. She had come to the academy to prove that humans belonged here. She had done that. But there was more work to be done. I'm going to keep training, she said. And I'm going to help other humans find their place here. Not by fighting Varax, but by showing everyone that we have something valuable to offer. Something different from what other species bring. Mirith and Valik exchanged glances. There was understanding in their eyes. The galaxy needs different, Mirith said quietly. We have been fighting the same way for millions of years. Perhaps it is time to learn new ways. After they left, Annie returned. He sat next to Katie in comfortable silence for a while. So, he finally said, "What happens now?" Katie looked at the ceiling, thinking about the future. She thought about all the human students at the academy, all the ones who had been mocked and dismissed. She thought about all the humans out there in the galaxy, working twice as hard to earn half the respect. Things would change after today. Slowly at first, then faster. The video of her fight would spread. People would talk. Questions would be asked. Assumptions would be challenged. Now, she said, we show them who we really are. Not just one human in one fight. All of us, every day. Until they understand. Danny smiled. That sounds like a lot of work. Humans are good at work, Katie said. We're good at persisting when others give up. We're good at finding ways to win when winning seems impossible. She turned her head to look at him. That's how we survived on Earth. That's how we'll thrive out here. She closed her eyes and let herself rest. Tomorrow, there would be questions and ceremonies and attention she did not want. But for now, she could be still. Somewhere in the academy, a Virax was waking up in a containment cell. It would live. Katie had made sure of that. It would be returned to its home world, released back into the wild where it belonged. She wondered if it would remember her, if it would tell its kind, in whatever way such creatures communicated, about the small soft creature that had refused to act like prey. Probably not. Animals did not think like that, but humans did. Humans remembered. Humans learned. Humans adapted and grew and changed and never, ever stopped pushing forward. That was why they were apex predators. Not because of claws or fangs or venom. Because of something far more dangerous. A mind that refused to accept defeat. Katie smiled and drifted off to sleep. Tomorrow, the galaxy would wake up to a new reality. Humans were not weak. They never had been taught, and now everyone knew it.